Thomas Jefferson described Lewis's forebears as one of the distinguished families of Virginia, and among the earliest. The first Lewis to come to America had been Robert, a Welshman and an officer in the British Army. The family coat of arms was Omni solum forti patria est, or all earth is to a brave man his country. An alternate translation is, everything the brave man does is for his country. Robert arrived in 1635 with a grant from the king for 33,333 1/3 acres of Virginia land. He had numerous progeny, including Colonel Robert Lewis, who was wonderfully successful on the Virginia frontier of the 18th century in Albemarle County. On his death, Colonel Lewis was wealthy enough to leave all 9 of his children with substantial plantations. His 5th son, William, inherited 1,896 acres and slaves and a house, Locust Hill, a rather rustic log home, but very comfortable and filled with things of value, including much table silver. It was just 7 miles west of Charlottesville, within sight of Monticello. One of the Lewis men, an uncle of Meriwether Lewis's father, was a member of the King's Council. Another, Fielding Lewis, married a sister of George Washington. Still another relative, Thomas Lewis, accompanied Jefferson's father, Peter, on an expedition in 1746 into the Northern Neck, between the Potomac and the Rappahannock. Thomas was the first Lewis to keep a journal of exploration. He had a gift for vivid descriptions, of horses tumbling over rocks and precipices, of cold, rain, and near starvation. He wrote of exultation over killing 1 old bear and 3 cubs. He described a mountain area where they were so often in the outmost danger this terrible place was called Purgatory. One river was so treacherous they named it Styx, from the dismal appearance of the place being sufficient to strict terror in any human creature. In 1769, William Lewis, then 31 years old, married his cousin, 22-year-old Lucy Meriwether. The Meriwether family was also Welsh and also land-rich. By 1730, the family held a tract near Charlottesville of 17,952 acres. The coat of arms was Vi et Concilio, or Force and Counsel. George R. Gilmer, later a governor of Georgia, wrote of the family, "None ever looked at or talked with the Meriwether, but he heard something which made him look or listen again." Jefferson said of Colonel Nicholas Meriwether, Lucy's father, "He was the most sensible man I ever knew." He had served as commander of a Virginia regiment in Braddock's disastrous campaign of 1755. The Lewis and Meriwether families had long been close-knit and interrelated. Indeed, there were 11 marriages joining Lewis's and Meriwether's between 1725 and 1774. Nicholas Meriwether II, 1667 to 1744, was the great-grandfather of Lucy Meriwether and the grandfather of William Lewis. The marriage of Lucy and William combined 2 bloodlines of unusual strength and some weaknesses. According to Jefferson, the family was subject to hypochondriac affections. It was a constitutional disposition in all the nearer branches of the family. Despite William Lewis's tendency toward hypochondria, or what Jefferson at other times called melancholy and would later be called depression, Jefferson described his neighbor and friend as a man of good sense, integrity, bravery, enterprise, and remarkable bodily powers. A year after their marriage, William and Lucy Lewis had their first child, a daughter they named Jane. Meriwether Lewis was born in 1774. 3 years later, a second son, Reuben, was born. In 1775, war broke out. Jefferson noted that, when it came, William Lewis was happily situated at home with a wife and young family, and a fortune placed him at ease. Nevertheless, he left all to aid in the liberation of his country from foreign usurpations. Like General Washington, he served without pay. Going Washington one better, he bore his own expenses as his patriotic contribution to his country. Meriwether Lewis scarcely knew his father, for Lieutenant Lewis was away making war for most of the first 5 years of his son's life. He served as commander of one of the first regiments raised in Virginia, enlisting in July 1775. By September, he was a first lieutenant in the Albemarle.